This is Tony from Refinement, Not Retirement, back again with my wife and podcast host and fellow refiner, Christine. Hi, Christine.
Hello, hello, hello. Sorry, I'm just eating some dry roasted peanuts and an AFD beer. If anybody spots me, it's an alcohol-free day today.
Yes,
Cheers.
yes, and maybe you can just quickly explain why we have been off air for a little bit.
Because we have been traveling to Egypt, doing the big touristy up the Nile, the pyramids, the Sphinx, lots of temples, lots of tombs, Tutankhamun museums, and pretty amazing, exhausting but fantastic. We've done it, and that's it. It's something to tick off the old bucket list if anyone has one. But it was exhausting, so we only got back last night, so we're raring to go.
Absolutely, and we will be doing a podcast episode about our adventure in Egypt and going up the Nile on a vegan cruise with our favorite travel company, Vegan Travel. So we'll be sharing our experiences, whether you're vegan or not. If you haven't been on a Nile cruise or you haven't even been to Egypt and seen the pyramids, etc., then you might find what we have to say quite interesting. We will
Yeah,
tell you about the
absolutely.
good stuff and the bad stuff so that you are well prepared. But that's not what we're here for. As you know, refiners, we have been doing a series of episodes on the Trump criminal trial in New York, but we've been doing it in a unique way. Haven't seen anyone else doing this on the internet. We're doing it from a UK perspective, thinking about how this might look if it was something similar was happening in the UK, how the UK judges and UK courts might deal with somebody like Trump differently. And we're always very happy to get contributions from everybody on our podcast episodes, but particularly we're looking for any UK lawyers who are fascinated, like we are, uh, by what's going on with this Trump guy in the courts over there. And if you have a view, which you're bound to have if you're following it as avidly as we are, then we'd like to hear what you think, and particularly from lawyers and judges even. Uh, what You can do it either anonymously or otherwise, but we'd like to hear what you have to think. So where
Well,
were
I
we?
can do just, yeah, I
Go
was
on.
just going to just say quickly is what you just said about lawyers and judges. Based on what I'm listening to over there, it seems like this is like a human being that never been met before in such, such a, well, weird personality and person. And I think everybody is just beggars belief that the behavior that is going on. And I don't think anybody, they've said that it's never been seen like anything like that in the States. And I can't imagine it would ever be seen anything quite like that in the UK. I can't even think of anybody to compare with, really.
So the connection, if I just may interject there,
Yes,
Chris,
absolutely. I was just
the
throwing that
connection
in.
with our Nile cruise here that I just wanted to mention at this stage is that there were, as there always is on these cruises, a contingent of Americans who
Yes.
all were talking about Trump. And so we thought we'd bring that in, what they had to say. We were very interested in their point of view. They were very interested in our point of view. So we'll be sharing with you in a few minutes some of the things that we heard over there, the fascinating discussions we had about it with them. What I will say is that, of course, nearly all of them were vegans or flexitarians and
Vegetarian. Yeah.
vegetarians. And what I can, I think, say was vast generalization, but vegans who always tend to be nice people don't
Of course,
like
of course.
don't like Mr. Trump. So there was nobody on board who had anything good to say about him,
Yeah. We
which was
didn't have to worry
interesting.
too much, did we? Because we always have to go very cautiously, not quite sure. But
Yes.
it became very quickly apparent that that they were all pretty scared. really. Pretty
Yes,
scared of
absolutely. Well, we'll go into that a little bit more
America.
in a moment. But where were we? As I say, I think we've done 3 episodes so far. This is the
Oh, have
fourth.
we?
Yeah, the fourth episode. But I've done the last 2 on my own because you were very busy doing stuff, and I wanted to get an update out there. Well, there's been a gap because of this Nile trip, this Egypt trip, and I think that's been a good thing, really, because not a there wasn't really if you talk about it sort of too frequently, there isn't a great deal that changes, but that now quite a lot has been accomplished in the trial. I think the last time we were talking about the gag order that the judge had placed on Trump, which he's been continually whining about ever since. But since then, we've had evidence from some various witnesses, all have for the prosecution, all of whom, from our perspective, I think we can both say have handled themselves well, have stood up to the onslaught from the defense. But most notably, I think Stormy Daniels,
Did a good job,
the
didn't she?
woman, she did a very good job, and she's the woman, obviously, that one of the women, I should say, that one of the women that to whom hush money was allegedly paid in order to influence the outcome of the election in 2016. In the way that it kept bad stories, negative stories about Trump's antics
Well, it's
away
a bit
from the
juicy, juicy,
voters.
juicy. I think she got a little bit.
Yes, but I'm just talking
Explicit.
about the legal aspect of it. That
Oh, I see. Yes, yeah.
it's not just that hush money was paid, because that in itself isn't illegal. The bit where it crosses into a crime is that it was done for the specific purpose of interfering with the 2016 election by keeping important information out of the public domain.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And that the fault that a conspiracy was alleged to have been done, whereby what happened, payment of the hush money, was falsified in the accounting in Trump's organizations or Trump's own accounting records to make it look like they were not hush money payments, but were for something else. And that is a felony. So, yes, going back to the Americans on board, well, you had conversations, I had conversations, Chris. You just alluded to the fact that they're all terrified about the prospect of Trump winning the presidency for a second term.
And some even think that he will again. And I said, "Are you serious?" And they said, I'm very nervous, but I think he might win. And I just don't see how he can. But stranger things have happened. He got in the first time purely by I think he didn't expect to win. I think it was quite shock horror, really. I think even the look on his face when it was announced that
Well, I
he
think it came
was.
as a surprise to him too. There's a
Yes,
very good
yes, I think so.
documentary that
But
we
now it's
watched
yes.
on the plane called "The Accidental President,"
Mm.
on
Yes, that
Amazon
was
Prime
fantastic.
Video, which talks about how he it stunned everybody, including him. I think that he won the presidency in 2016, and that's a
Yeah,
very
which
good
has given him the
documentary.
confidence, hasn't it? That's given him the confidence now
Yes,
to
and I
to
think it's turned him into a much more dangerous animal, because with
yes,
that
powerful.
confidence, as you rightly say, with that confidence, he's now the knowledge and experience of being president, he knows how to come back and perhaps achieve some of the frightening things that he's been talking about achieving.
And he's openly saying that, isn't he? He's openly talking about Russia. He's openly talking about probably get rid of all the Supreme Court judges that aren't on his side, and firing everybody that's annoyed him, or doing all sorts of, I don't know quite what he's talking about doing, but he's doing a lot, hasn't he, to people that he feels upset with? I don't
Oh,
know.
he's definitely got an agenda of revenge
Yeah.
against his political opponents. and anybody who he considers to have done him, who could have gone against him. He definitely has that agenda. But I would put it more strongly than you put it. The Americans that talk to me really feel there's a very real prospect of him winning. I hadn't realized that it was quite that close, because I suppose I just couldn't believe that in large numbers the American populace could vote for such a dangerous person who is accused, I mean, who has so many legal cases against him, both civil and criminal.
Yeah, yes.
Has been accused and found culpable of sexual assault, which the judge described as rape. And although he denies that, the fact is that the jurors didn't agree with him, but also has doubled down on making comments on oath in a deposition, doubled down on the comments that he made with regard to being able to grab women without their consent by their genitals, because he's a star, a celebrity. He doubled down on that in one of the trials. So how do you vote? How is somebody like that? How can anyone think that somebody like that
Well,
is
particularly, and
fit?
women, particularly, even women, if you want to just try and even
Well,
narrow it
particularly
down a bit,
women, yeah.
why would one woman want to vote for a man like that?
Particularly women, I agree, but anybody really. I mean, how can this person be fit for the highest office in the world? It's beyond me, but these Americans that we met felt it was a very real possibility. But
Yeah,
I would, going back to the trial, so we Stormy Daniels did very well. She did so well, I think, that they didn't think it was necessary to produce the other woman as a witness,
correct.
the playmate woman, who also seemed like a very nice person. But I don't think it was necessary. And then we now have, I mean, the most recent witness and the final witness, I believe, for the prosecution has been Michael Cohen. And I think there was a lot of concern that because he's such a hothead, that the defense would have been able to rile him up in cross-examination, and he would damage the prosecution case by flying off the handle. But he was actually very, very measured.
Yeah, I think
Very,
they've been trying to wind him up, haven't they?
oh yes,
They're on the other side. It's the defense giving their case. But I just wanted to throw in about
go ahead.
Michael Cohen, because I hadn't heard of him until you suggested we listen to the two books that he's written, which we did driving somewhere. I think it was driving through France last year.
Yes, it
Was
was.
fascinating because I didn't even know he existed. But Michael Cohen, if anybody's interested in it, can you remember the name of the books? I
Well,
can't.
one of them is called Revenge,
Oh, that's
and
right.
I can't
Yeah.
remember what the other one is called.
But
But one
yes,
of the
but
things that the defense want to paint, they want to paint Michael Cohen as somebody who would lie because he's so upset with Trump. Well, and a
and he's
lot of
revenge.
their
Yes, he's got.
cross-examination focused on showing how much he hated Trump. Well, the fact of the matter is he does hate Trump.
Yes,
And
and he has
I
admitted
don't,
that.
yes, I don't think he's tried to hide that, as you say.
No, but I
But
just wanted again. Okay, I
go
just
on.
wanted to just throw in that having read it, he gives a very honest, because at the beginning of the book I didn't like him very much because I thought he sounded like a real. Well, he was his lawyer, wasn't he? But he was a real, and he admitted that he was a real go-getter. He wanted to be in Trump's camp. He even bought a property in the Trump Tower with his family. His family didn't like Trump. His children didn't like Trump, and he just kept going. And he could have not listening to them, and he could have lost his whole family over him working for Trump. And I think it was his honesty right from the beginning of admitting of the way he felt and the way he just bamboozled me, because he was hungry for money. He was a go-getter, a top lawyer, and he was thrilled to be in the Trump camp. So of course, the way he writes this book is that he is always, when he's talking about Trump, and the way he feels about him, it's always backed up by, I was a fool, I made a mistake, I was an idiot, and it wasn't until it got, he was never part of the presidential campaign, was he? If I remember rightly,
Oh, he's part of the campaign. He was part of the campaign.
Oh, was he? I thought he wasn't.
Yes, very much so. And he said lots of supportive things about Trump.
Right.
But he had the fact is that Trump threw him under the bus, not only under the bus, but under several buses.
And had him,
by
well, actually, got him in prison as well, didn't he?
Cohen says that that the reason that he lied on oath, that he lied to the FBI, was because he was trying to protect Trump, and he believed in Trump, and he was drinking the Kool-Aid at that time. He was part of the Trump cult, as he puts it.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, and that's why he got sent to prison for a while.
And of course, right? he for lying and being involved in this cover-up, this hush money cover-up, falsifying records and so on. He was put in prison, and Trump, as the FBI's investigation wound up, and Trump was in their sights. Now they got Cohen to flip, but Trump tried to, as the evidence goes, Trump tried to say to Cohen, don't worry, I'm the president of the United States, you'll be okay, sort of thing.
Yes.
But in fact, he abandoned Cohen, and so Cohen talked to his family. I believe Cohen's apartment, his home, was raided by the FBI, which was a terrifying thing for him and for the family to go through. But he sat down with his family, and they appealed to him and said, "Look, you're supposed to put us first, not Trump first."
Yeah.
And he realized the error of his ways. This is his position. He realized the error of his ways and had he had an epiphany and decided that he would now come completely clean and tell the truth. And the whole thing has the ring of truth to me about it. I think that book is an excellent book, Revenge by Michael Cohen, and I think that it's an important book if you're interested in this subject to read. We listened to it on our way driving through France, as Chris says, as an audio book, and you do at the beginning get he does sort of, it's not him narrating it, but you obviously it's his
reading
words,
from it. Yes,
his words, and he's not, but he's not immediately likable because he's
not
very ambitious, power hungry, and Trump gave him the opportunity to have a position of power, which he enjoyed, and he makes no secret of the fact that he enjoyed it. But he says now, what I was doing to people on Trump's behalf was wrong. And I realize I was, wrong, and I want to put all that right. And his podcast, by the way, is called Mea Culpa. So obviously that title tells you a lot about his position. And that's another thing that's worth subscribing to if you're interested. Okay.
It gives you a connection, doesn't it, to Trump, and just puts the picture, because when you start hearing what he did, it all adds up to the picture that we've been seeing since he's been, charged with all sorts of the cases. You can actually, the whole picture now is, to me, is one whole picture of what a despicable, unpleasant man he is. It beggars belief, in my opinion, beggars belief.
I agree. So going back to where we are in the trial is that Michael Cohen has completed his evidence, and that really should pretty much wrap up the prosecution's case. I think the prosecution may well rest by the end of this week, and I'm not expecting any, very much more from them. They've laid everything out. They've admitted that Michael Cohen has told lies in the past. They've put that all out there, but everything and they've gone to great lengths to make sure that the evidence that Cohen has given against Trump is corroborated by documents. So everything that he
Correct.
says is backed up by documents. And
Yes, not just his word.
it's going to be very difficult, I think, for the defense to put on anything very persuasive, and all that seems to come from Trump's side is continual whinging about, he's under a gag order, and the court's too cold for him, and it's a Biden. It's all a political witch hunt against him. Well, it's anything but that. I mean, the evidence against him is extremely strong.
Well, he said today, didn't he? I think yesterday when he asked when he left court, "Are you going to testify, Mr. Trump?" His answer was, "I have a gag order on me." Well, everything and everybody says, well, the gag order is specific about talking about the jury, talking about the judge, anything defamatory. There's nothing about
not defamatory. He's not allowed to say anything.
Oh, that's right.
He's not allowed to attack witnesses, the judge. Well, he can attack the judge, actually. He can't attack witnesses, the judge's family, any of the prosecution's families. But he can testify, and he can talk about anything that doesn't breach the very narrow language in the gagging order. So,
but he's saying to out there that yes, it is all a load of nonsense.
But so that's where we are. But nobody knows what a jury will do. The defense have only got to persuade one of them, and he'll be acquitted. So nobody knows what's going to happen, and there may be someone on the jury who is a Trumpite, although that should have been weeded out in the qualification process. But there may be someone on there who's persuaded. It's a high bar for the prosecution to prove their case beyond all reasonable doubt. That's their burden. But and I would have thought that subject to what the defense is going to put on in their case, I would think they've achieved that. But nobody knows what a jury will do. But beyond that, there's further danger lurking, because what Trump did do when he was in office before was that he put judges on the Supreme Court who were right-wing judges and Trump supporters. And we've seen very clear evidence of the political aspects of the judiciary in the US. And I don't think comparing it with, we talk about comparing it with what happens in the UK, I could not in a million years imagine judges behaving the way some of these Supreme Court judges have behaved.
They should be independent, shouldn't they?
US. Well, of course they should be, and they swear an oath to do that and not to make political decisions. And what they've done here, the right-wing judges, I mean, on this, his case, his appeal relating to claiming that the president has absolute immunity from prosecution. I don't think that it is expected that even the far right Supreme Court judges would vote in favor of a president having unqualified immunity. But what they've done is that they've helped him by delaying the trial of the insurrection case against him, probably the most consequential case of all, that and the documents case. In accepting the appeal and putting on it a very slow walking timetable, they've made sure that the trial won't go ahead till after the election. And it seems to me and to most legal commentators that I've listened to, that was their clear strategy and their clear intention. And they've done that. They've served up that delay win for him. And then there is this other judge down in Florida, Eileen Cannon, federal court judge, who he appointed, who it's very clear to most legal commentators that she has been messing around on this documents case. This is the case where he stole government documents. The evidence seems
From his home, stored them in his home, didn't he?
You don't seem to be able to make a case against the prosecution's position that he stole secret papers, that related to war plans, etc., and then refused to give them back.
That was after he left office, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Took them to his home.
Well, he did all sorts of things, which it seems quite clear that he frustrated the government's attempts to recover these papers, which are the government's property, and very, very important papers they are. And Eileen Cannon, has really slow walked the proceedings and made sure that that too will not get aired in a court, that case, before the election. A deliberate policy by a federal court judge, and it's disgraceful. So there is danger lurking ahead, because if the jury finds that he's guilty in this current hush money election interference case, he will appeal. He appeals everything. And that appeal will, likely eventually end up in the Supreme Court. And then, well, judging by what they said in the immunity case, and I mean, some quite daft things by at least one of the right-wing
Yes, we listened to some
judges
of it, didn't
there
we,
in
live?
the oral hearing, the hearing of the oral arguments on either side. I mean, it seems quite likely that they will go to considerable lengths to look after their buddy who appointed them, Trump. I cannot see that ever happening. Anything like that, anything remotely like that, ever happening in the UK. And it shows to me the superior that our system, our judicial system, is vastly superior.
Yes. Well, wasn't there? Remind me why he said, because he's saying to be immune. He said, I heard it just recently in that documentary we were watching, where he said, I could go into the streets of New York onto Fifth Avenue and I could shoot somebody because I would have the power
and get away with it.
And I get away with it.
Yeah.
So that's what he's basically trying to do in this immunity, from the insurrection, isn't it? That he is immune because although he left office, he was still the, what do you call them in the jungle?
Well, he's saying absolute immunity for even after I leave office. Even after I leave office, I can't be prosecuted for anything that I did while I was president. And I mean, that seems to me to be a completely ridiculous, dangerous position. And I mean, even his own lawyers have distanced themselves to a certain extent while even actually arguing for that position. But he's saying that they are going as far as to say that he should be immune, even if he uses the military to kill one of his political opponents, murder one of his political opponents. So
because he needs that power to be able to make that judgment. It is his daft.
So the idea of this guy getting back in the presidency is really consequential, not only for the Americans, obviously, but also for the world, because he's shown himself to be a supporter of Putin and an admirer of dictators, around the world, and strong.
Well, that's how he sees himself.
And he sees himself exactly. He sees himself
as a
like
dictator, not
like that, exactly. So this is very dangerous. This situation. Who knows what's going to happen? But anyway, that's. But going back to the case that we're discussing, Trump's case, which we should be hearing about next week, I think, the defense case would be that he didn't know about any of these hush money payments. This was cooked up by Trump and one of his employees without his knowledge. Well, the evidence doesn't remotely support that arguments. So it'll be very fascinating to see what they've got to say.
Yeah.
As I've said, I'm going a bit fast because we're running out of time, but we will we will come back and discuss what happens next when there's something meaningful to talk about. But in the meantime, we would love to hear from you, dear listener, about what you
Yes,
have to
please.
think. Yes, and particularly from UK lawyers who've got something to say about this, as I said earlier. But everybody, I mean, we always love to hear from our listeners. We do have the podcast Refinement, Not Retirement. It does have its own Facebook page. That's a good way of getting in touch with us. You can message us directly. It doesn't have to be public, or you can do it publicly too. It's up to you, but we definitely want to hear what you have to think about this, because we think it's enormously important for the world, what's going on over in America. As it happens, Christine and I will be in America when the election takes place.
Oh
So
my
that's
gosh,
going to be
yes.
also fascinating to be there, I think.
Yeah,
But
I'm not so sure, but hey.
we've got, so we do have a bit of an interesting perspective here. We've got lots of lovely American friends. Some are Trump supporters, most are not, but we do have
We better be
an
with the supporters
insight.
that night, haven't we?
We do have an insight into what's going on, and we will be there, and we will tell you what we think. So that said, we will be back also soon with our episode about the Egypt trip, as we discussed earlier, and we're looking forward very much to telling you about that and the wonderful new friends that we met, and old friends that we reunited with, and we'll tell you about our vegan experience there and all sorts of things. So do stay with us. Thank you for your support. Christine and I, as I say, love to hear from you, but for now it's time to go. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me, everyone. Thank you very much for
Thanks.
listening.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.